regular meeting of the Westmont Planning and Zoning Commission here on Wednesday, July 12th, 2023. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Lavoie.
Here.
Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Scales.
Here.
Commissioner Berry.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson. Commissioner Van Buren is here, and Chairman Carmichael.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And while I have you standing, to anyone who intends to testify, please raise your right hand and swear that any and all testimony you give before this commission will be the truth, whole truth. So help you God. Thank you. Thank you. And Commissioners, everyone, please make sure your phones are silenced. And we've already reminded that everyone who testifies has to be signed in with name and point of contact before testifying. Next item is approval of the minutes of the May 10, 2023 regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve, Thomas. Second.
Second, Barry.
Barry.
Thomas.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Scales.
Yes.
Commissioner Berry.
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Lavoie.
Yes.
And Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. At this point is what we call the open forum, where if anyone is here present who would like to get up and address the commission on any issue that is not on the agenda tonight, this is your chance. Seeing no one, we'll proceed to a review of the public hearing procedures. First, the petitioner applicant is identified and introduced, and then he or she will present their petition, followed by our staff comments and comments on the petition. Then the public gets a chance to weigh in, either with statements or asking questions of the petitioner and or staff, and then finally the commissioners themselves can question and comment. We have our village attorney here to assist us for any consultation. And note that our votes are not final. This board is our votes are recommending to the village board. So after this hearing, staff will notify you when you'll be scheduled to appear before the village board. Any questions on that? Let's proceed to new business. Under PZC 018-2023, a request by the West Hills Community Church regarding the property at 213 East 55th Street in Westmont for the following. A special use permit request for an existing religious institution with outdoor recreation fields and an ancillary temporary lighting in the R3 single-family detached residence district. Who would address this issue? Mr. Glyman. Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation to be here tonight. Just a little background on the church. We have been in the village for right around 100 years.
Your name, sir?
Paul Glyman. We've been in the village for 100 years, been at this property right around 50 years. I have been there for 10 as the lead pastor. When we started there, we had different soccer clubs that were playing. I really was not even that aware of that. It's something that preceded me. And I was not aware that we needed a special use permit. And it's possible that we preceded the existence of special use permits, and I think that we kind of got grandfathered in. And we have had some different soccer clubs, some that pay us, some that have not paid us, some that are non-for-profit. And, for instance, Downers Grove Christian, we've had them play several years. And in addition, there's other entities that use, we have about 5 acres of land. So Different people approach us for all sorts of different requests. We partner with Avenue Christian Church of Clarendon Hills on homes. They've used our property for multiple occasions. So when we were approached, we had a club that was with us, Empire. They have moved on. Downers Grove Christian is still planning on being with us this autumn. But we were approached because there's not a lot of pieces of land like what we have in DuPage County. We were approached by Evolution Soccer Club, and we began discussions of possibly partnering with them. And in that process, the issue of lights came up, and so I approached the village, and that's when I became aware that we needed to have a special use permit. And as far as whether we use lights or not, and I don't know whether that's a deal breaker or not, but I think I will allow Evolution to address that. But if there's any questions for me while I'm still here, I'm happy to try to answer anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff, who's going to address this?
I will be. So he touched on a few things there. Paul did. I'm going to go through the staff report, not line by line, but just highlight some things. Paul did say that the religious institution somewhat predates a lot of our code. They basically are a legal nonconformity on this property in the R3 district. So in this specified district, in the R3 district, a special use permit is required for a religious institution. The petitioner's request requires the church to obtain this and secure the status of the legal nonconformity to become a legal conforming. And as Paul noted, in recent past, the church has also utilized the fields for recreational activity ancillary to the church as soccer fields and has leased the land out in recent past. When this was approached to us for the extension of the use, that's when we have to go back and really establish the religious institutional use first, and then look at expanding the soccer use. So Evolution is proposing to extend the hours of the recreational soccer use to 8:30 p.m. with temporary outdoor lighting. The lighting consists of 3 mobile trailers with extendable lights and generators. And then the sorry, I gotta go back. Evolution gave us some information related to their activities on the property. They indicated that fall practices will run from August 14th to November 3rd, and then its spring practices will run from April 8th to June 7th. These sessions will be from Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The club also noted that they have fixtures or games during the Sunday mornings, or excluding Sunday mornings on the weekends. The club also noted that the outdoor lighting is not allowed, if the outdoor lighting is not allowed under the special use permit, that they would only utilize the fields in the fall from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. They also noted that they incorporate a staggered practice start and only have up to 40 players on the fields at a given time, with about 5 coaches monitoring the fields. As for West Hills Community Church, they hold service, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but it's on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. They also have another service through the Church of Casa de Dio Shalom, and those services are at 1 p.m. every Sunday. Going into some of the code related to the outdoor lighting, we have some specific language related to outdoor lighting. I'll read it directly. It says, where the outdoor lighting is provided on any lot, the lighting fixtures shall be so designed and so located as to confine the rays of light within the boundaries of the lot. Staff did request photometrics for the exterior lights. However, the applicant was unable to provide that material to us before this meeting. The photometrics could have been provided us with information to illustrate that they would comply with this code section. We also note that the SUP, or the special use permit, could also be amended in the approval without the authorization of the lighting. if a motion is made. So that's the special use permit side of it. Staff also recommends that the special use permit includes some enforcement language if the proposal is moved on to the board for approval.
How would that be done?
We would have to, I believe, John, correct me if I'm wrong, we would have to amend the motion with that language in it and likely be written in the ordinance, that specific language.
I've got a list of potential conditions that if the village is willing to approve this, one, there's the church use, but when you consider the outdoor recreation use, you can impose conditions, and I've got a list of those you can consider.
And I should mention that it would be for the lighting standards and then also the sound standards within that language, because they are generators, they do produce sound. And they have some specifications listed in the application for those lighting fixtures.
Okay.
I believe that the petitioners with the soccer club are here as well to give some more explanation.
Yes, would the soccer club Evolution like to address the commission at this time?
Hello, how are you? My name is Kieran Howarth. I speak at the speed of light, so you won't offend me if I see a vacant expression. I'll just naturally repeat the last thing that I say. Pardon my attire, I got slightly drained in a session before. So yeah, just to clarify, we're not going to go with the lights. We're going to retract that from the application completely. Just because, again, there's the complications that could go with that and the delays that could go with that as well. So Evolution as a club, primarily out of Naperville, we're now expanding to the east. Coach Dan Fernhead is the East Operations Director. He'll be overseeing the site here. So Evolution's a non-for-profit 501c3. We started in 2014. We're servicing about 900 players across the 3 locations that we have. So one in Naperville, one now in Westmont, Oak Brook area, and then one also in Yorkville. So yeah, so ultimately for the fall season, the dates that Scott referenced are correct, but the start time would be 4, the end time would be 6 in the fall season without the lights, and then the spring, the latest we will go to is 7:30. And then on the weekend again, we obviously would adhere to all the sunset times as well.
Okay, thank you. That's very illuminating, so to speak.
Sure.
And I think it uncomplicates this issue a lot.
Sure.
Can I ask?
No, yes.
Can I ask a question first?
Please.
Hi.
Hey.
There still will be potential for fixtures on weekends?
No, sir.
No games on the property?
Oh, I'm sorry. So fixtures. I'm sorry. I was thinking lights. My bad. No. So yeah. So games. Yes, on the weekend. Yes, sir.
Games on the weekends?
Yes, sir.
There's church services on Sundays in the morning at 10-ish and at 1.
Correct.
So would they be 3
Yeah.
o'clock or later on Sundays?
Correct. So yeah, we're working with Paul on that. So we'll basically completely eradicate any chance of a game on Sunday morning.
What about tournaments?
Tournaments, no. It's just simply local league games. There's no tournaments there.
So if the conditions in the ordinance are weekend games are permitted, but no tournaments, no special events, no outside vendors,
Correct.
and all player drop-off pickup will occur in the church parking lot?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions at all?
No,
Was I to understand that right, that you're withdrawing the lights at this time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I heard that
You're
correctly.
fine. I probably said it quickly. You're fine.
excellent. Thank you very much. Let's now go to the public. And any neighbors like to come address the commission? Evening, sir.
Evening. My name is Brian Mack. I lived in Westmont at 214 East 56th Street for 35 years with my wife. We're adjacent to the church parking lot, and the property there. We've been good neighbors with the church, we believe, for the 35 years, and we still are, we believe. I understand that there's a withdrawal of the lighting, putting the lighting in. That's what I think I just heard. Is that correct?
That'd be correct.
Okay. We're glad to hear that. We were under the impression, I'll speak for we, my wife and I, and also the other neighbors on the block. Some of them weren't able to come, some were able to come tonight. And candidly, we're glad to hear that the lights are removed there, but we were under the understanding that the church financially depended upon the soccer leagues to operate there on the field, okay? That's why nobody said a word about the trespassing that some of the people did in our yards, some of the debris, sometimes debris was thrown in our yards. Our fences used as backstops for kicking a soccer ball. They had a stray soccer ball come into the yard. A lot of that subsided after a few years went by, okay? But we thought it was going to end. This spring, when I woke up on Saturday mornings, I did it without hearing a whistle blow or a soccer coach yelling at kids, not in vain, but I'm sure for a good reason. And the crowd noise, we're all aware of it, all the neighbors on the block, and we don't like it. Is it the case that the church, can I ask this question? Is it the case that the church is fine? I'm conflicted. I belong to a church here in town for about 20 years now, and I'm empathetic and sympathetic to what a church needs to operate. Is it a financial dependence? Can I ask that question? On soccer leagues to operate there? Because they're a corporation, they make a profit either way. And someone benefits from that profit is what I understand. And if it's the church and they're dependent on it, then, you know, it kind of softens my heart. Is that the case, or?
You have to come to the podium to respond.
Can I shift over to the side here?
I don't know that I'd say we're dependent on it. It's a huge blessing for us. We're able to do things in the community, like People's Resource Center. There's other outreach things that we do. It's enabled us to renovate, to some degree, renovate the home right there on the corner that belongs to the church. Ultimately, I don't mean to speak Christianese, but I feel like we're dependent on God. But when someone approaches us, we never approached Empire, they approached us. We never approached Evolution, they approached us. We're willing to listen. We listen to all sorts of different people who come to us for our property and for the use of our building. And as I said before, there are some people, because we recognize they probably couldn't afford it, we offer our building for free. The mosque across the street parks in our parking lot for free, our front parking lot on Fridays. So I wouldn't say that we're dependent. It's a huge blessing to us. Would we be disappointed if we didn't get it? Yeah. Are we going to shut down? I believe God's going to provide one way or the other. And I just want to say that I really, other than one family that's a part of our church that lives on that property line, and I've talked with them about some different things about dogs, I really haven't heard complaints. And I would be very open that if ever there's any issue with anything that's happening, I'll give you my cell phone number. I want to hear about it.
Thank you, Pastor. I'm glad to hear that. I don't know what to say. It's a tough situation. I don't think the noise can be controlled. That's what it boils down to. These things that I named that were nuisances and they've subsided over the years, they'll happen again, of course. You know, it's human nature that's going to happen. So when a kid's going to trespass into a yard, you know, one of our dogs bit a child there, and I had the police come out, and because he was taunting the dog at the fence there, you know, and I was on the hook for that. But I had to put boards up that spanned without a gap for a finger or a stick to go through. So the noise is still going to be there. I'm really, I hate to say it, it's difficult. It's difficult, you know. I know the other neighbors, it's a problem for them too. That it boils down to the noise, you know. Like I said, I'm up at Saturday mornings. Is there a later time? I don't know that they could start or whatever. I don't know what the answer is. What about people that work third shift on the block? I don't know, you know. But our position, you know, my position as in my wife is that, you know, we've seen this growth in this village. I lived in Chicago my early part of my life, and I'm seeing this village become population dense, with more activities and things going on. And we enjoyed the church being an empty lot as it was with the few events that would happen during a given year. So, that's what I got for you. You got any questions about us, our perspective? Can you help me out here? You know,
What time do games start on the weekends typically?
Oh, yeah, I thought it was in there.
So my name's Daniel. Kieran mentioned I'll be running Evolution East. So for us, we're a very small part of the club. We've got 120 players, mostly between 7 and 10 years old. So we have a lot of the younger players with us. In terms of game kickoff times, we're very flexible because we only have 13 teams. So in terms of organising games, our schedule is fairly open. So I can be smart in terms of planning. If I have to have away games Saturday morning and we schedule home games for Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, we can be flexible with that. We're very open to making it work. I worked for a previous club where I trained at the church maybe 10 years ago. So that's the reason we went back there, because it was always great working with Paul and the staff, and we didn't have any issues. The one thing I will say is, and I think for people, if they have knowledge of soccer in this kind of community, I think there is a different culture between the previous club who used the fields and our culture. I think the staff we hire are not going to be the ones who are yelling at the kids on a sideline. It's going to be a very different environment. Now, we can't control the whistles. Referees will be making decisions and giving fouls and using their whistle. None of our coaches use whistles Monday to Friday, so it would only be the games where there would be whistles. That helps.
Thank you.
What are the rules for a
Ma'am, if you want to, yeah, you'll have to come to the podium.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear. I know I have to do this. So I'm Arlene Plazek. I live.
Come to the microphones, and your name, please.
Arlene Plazek. So what time did you say the games start on the weekends? I heard a lot of talk, but I didn't hear. What time do they start?
Yeah.
So Saturday, normally our teams will play 9 a.m. That's the earliest kickoff time we will have.
Kickoff time. And what time does practice start with the teams? It'll be before kickoff time, right?
As in the warm-up for the game?
Yeah.
Warm-ups would be 30 minutes before for us.
So
that would be 8:30.
And what time will people start arriving? 8:15?
Normally 8:25, 8:30.
Okay.
But like I mentioned, we can be very flexible in terms of avoiding 9 a.m. kickoffs. If we collectively agree that 10 a.m. is the earliest time, we can work around that.
And ma'am, come to the microphones. And did you give your address, and you've signed in?
Yeah, I signed in.
Okay, good, thank you.
So just a couple other things. I noticed that there's no games on Sunday morning or that, so that's great for the church. But if we're having an outdoor barbecue or a birthday party Sunday afternoon, we're going to constantly be hearing the noise. And I think you said you don't use whistles. They use a lot of whistles. They use a lot of whistles during practice, kind of not talking down to the kids or being mean, but I've heard kind of like I wanted to go there and take that kid and say, it's okay, it's okay. I don't want them to think, because you don't know what every coach is doing out there. And you said, I believe you said, could be up to 40 people out there. I think that's a lot. I think that's more than the other teams had in the past. If you're talking 40 players, you're talking 80 parents, you're talking grandparents, because I attend every baseball game we can at Ty Warner and Veterans. And why can't can they not have access to the Ty Warner soccer fields, where there's a beautiful Ty Warner and there's more facilities there that they could possibly use and probably are? I don't know, that's just my thought. Why do you have to go in a residential area when we didn't sign up to buy our property 46 years ago next to a park with games going all the time? We like the quiet, and I'm just concerned that, and you said there's no lights, so it won't go till 8:30. Because I know after games, people hang around a lot longer than once the game's over. We're there a half hour or more longer past the end of those baseball games. Thank you.
So I think it's important to distinguish the difference between Monday to Friday and then the weekend. So there would be 40 kids potentially that practice Monday to Friday. That's where parents don't predominantly stick around and watch these practices. So on the weekend, potentially on the weekend there is games. That's when we probably have one game at a time, which the most would be 7v7, so that would be 14 players, 1-4, and then potentially their parents. So the games would be slightly different. Practice with that. Again, our coaches don't use whistles, so Monday to Friday I can guarantee there would be no whistles. I think this speaks to the difference in the culture of the clubs. It was a reason when I was looking to leave my previous club to join a new club, I didn't look at Empire because that doesn't fit in with my values or morals. Like Evolution was a better fit in terms of how we deal with kids, how we educate players, how we educate parents.
Okay, thank you. Sir?
Yeah. My name's Ken Plazek. That's my wife. The other concerns I have about this is the issue with the trash and the things that are left behind that get blown into our yard, along with the, the trespassing that happens, along with the, like my wife said, the loud whistles and the crowd noise and that. Sometimes if you work at night, you come home, you need to sleep during the daytime. You don't want to always have to have your windows closed and try to, ignore the noise. I mean, this is a residential area. It's not a commercial property or a public park. The other concern I had was the lighting. You said the lighting was going to be run by generators?
They're withdrawing the lighting. They're not going to do the lighting anymore. Correct.
Okay. So when you said it in November, it goes up to November 3rd at 8:30 at night.
They changed the hours on the request from 4 in the afternoon until 4 to 6.
Okay, 'cause it'll be
not 4 to 8:30.
It'll be dark in November by then.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, the main concern I have is the noise, the trash, just the overall noise, and it's not a residential area concern. It shouldn't be.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tammy. I live at 204. Tammy Jorgensen.
Thank you.
I live at 204 East 56th Street. I share sentiments with my neighbors about the concerns that they have, but I also have some questions for, I guess, everyone. So now that things have kind of changed with no lighting being a part of this process, does this still go forward as a special permit? Does it change anything as do you guys still have to go through the review of?
Yeah, please.
I'll go ahead and attempt to answer that. So there's two things that are requiring the special use permit. So first, since I have a large audience, I'm going to quickly explain what the special use permit is for. So in all districts, we have listed uses that are permitted by right. So in a residential area, it's very easy to say that single-family homes are permitted by right. So those are permitted uses. Then we have those uses that are not listed, and those are considered not permitted. So if we did not list that a mechanic shop can be in a residential district, the assumption is it's not allowed there. And then we have a list of what we consider special uses. And what that means is they might be okay in that district. We need to analyze it. And there are several things that are listed as special uses in residential districts. Churches, parks, schools, those are things that can be in residential districts, but require special uses. Now, these rules for special uses came about really in the 70s, 80s, in that era. So there were a lot of things out there that predate the rules. And in this case, the church predated it. So there was no special use approved back 50 years, 100 years, or how long they've been in this space. So they are considered what we call legal nonconforming. And what legal nonconforming means, we're okay as when they operate as they've always operated, but if they want to expand use, then we bring them in and secure a special use. So there's one special use that's requested, and that is for a church special use. And then nested under that, it's the ability as part of their approval to utilize the outdoor areas to a third party to use them.
Okay. So this special use for the soccer club to use it as a facility, is this like a gateway to other zoning issues? Is that, or if they want special use for, let's say, a baseball program or any other sort of sports program, lacrosse program, would they have to get a new special use permit for that?
Well, it all comes down to how we write the approving ordinance if it's approved. My attorney can correct me, but I would anticipate in this case, because they asked for a soccer club with specific days and specific hours, that we would write that into the special use. So
Okay.
basically, they cannot extend outside of those parameters.
Okay. So then this also said temporary lighting, and again, back to the special use. How long are you guys leasing the property for? How long is this program going to last?
So in terms of the lease, we've not signed anything yet. Obviously for us, a big part of it was deciding if it was going to get approved. So we've not signed a lease because if we sign it now and then the special use permit gets rejected, then we'll be looking elsewhere. And just to answer a previous question, which I forgot, I think someone mentioned about Ty Warner. I think for us, there's a lot of clubs who already have use of certain fields. Ty Warner is unavailable. That's where we have reached out to different fields. So we have like Westmont Yard, and we're hoping to use VEC in Hinsdale. But we just need somewhere to get our younger players, which is why they will train 4:30 till 6.
So you said Westmont Yard in Hinsdale or Westmont? Westmont.
VEC.
I'm sorry?
VEC Park.
Okay. Because I know Westmont Yard is also in Naperville. They've got a couple other locations as well. And I believe the pastor, is that how I address you? Okay, sorry. You indicated that you have done, your church has done service with other soccer programs and they couldn't find any other property in the DuPage area. So is that accurate? I guess essentially sorry, this would probably be for both of you guys. Have your options been exhausted? Is this kind of like a final resort, or did you guys look at other places?
Well, I'll answer it first as far as like for Downers Grove Christian. We're both churches. They're not going to find another place that's going to let them play for free. That's only going to be us. And we're happy to partner with them. We're like-minded institutions. So as far as other people trying to find properties that they can use, I'd just say it's very limited. I can't answer that for Evolution.
Yeah, so in terms of field space, it's tough to find field space. In our area, there's a lot of soccer clubs, and then you also have AYSO, which is the recreational program. So because it's park district fields, the recreational program takes priority. So all the fields in Westmont Park District, Clarendon Hills, Hinsdale, their first priority is to do the rec program before going to the travel soccer programs. So we're kind of the second option, which means, I'm trying to plan a schedule now for August 14th start, and I can't plan it because the park districts haven't released their schedule yet. So this is why clubs will look to use land that they can kind of control the schedule a little bit more, just because for us it makes it easier we can announce a schedule to parents a lot earlier, they can work around conflicts, it means we can plan our coach's schedule. So that's why this land is preferable to us as opposed to relying on the park districts. It also means because when you're at the mercy of the park districts, they tend to close their fields quite frequently when it rains, and that can be quite frustrating, whereas fields, which if it's private land, it's more our decision whether we train or not. So it gives us more flexibility.
And before you go anywhere, I don't know if I can ask this question, but is the revenue split between the church, your program, and the village?
That's really not relevant.
Okay. All right, sorry. I guess, okay. So my other concerns among others, are these hours and dates. We're looking at a fall period of August to November, and then winter time, and then again from spring to the beginning of summer. So we're looking at a break for the residents of no soccer between June 7th and August 14th. Outside of that period, and again, winter time, we're looking at 6 days a week in the evening. I'm a full-time, I work full-time, I've got 3 young kids. So when I come home, it's all the time that I have with my kids. And the distractions, I also have dogs. I just see this as an issue with my family, the disruptions of 6 days a week in soccer. I played soccer, I love it, I love the program. Like I feel for you guys and I hope you do find something, but as far as my family is concerned and my neighbors, like, I don't want this. I'm afraid of the traffic. I'm sorry, I'm like shaking right now. We live on the intersection and there's so many cars that drive through that right now. It scares the living daylights out of me and my children. I'm afraid that more traffic is going to be part of it if this comes along. The noises, my son is, I believe, on the spectrum, so the noises, any kind of noises are an issue for him. Yeah, the sound, the pollution, yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to keep talking in circles. I speak against this, and I thank you guys for hearing me. And I feel for you guys. I hope you guys find a good place. I just don't want it in my backyard.
Thank you.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Bring something else up, if I may. Am I understanding correctly that the soccer isn't going to stop because it's grandfathered in for the church? The soccer period, with lights or without lights, or is that true or is it not true?
Joe, my understanding, this would be considered an expansion of an existing legal non-conforming use, so they would need specific approval to have the soccer activities on this field.
Okay, so they would need to petition the planning and zoning and the board to get approval to continue to do soccer operations, yes?
That's the question I asked. Hold on.
I agree with that. I believe when we had our early preliminary discussions, one of the distinctions was letting a third party use it versus if it was a church soccer group. I don't know if we would feel that if the church had its own soccer team that was doing it, and they've been doing it for a while, then that would be grandfathered in as well. But I believe that the soccer use that's been occurring there was never properly permitted through the SUP, and probably it's legal, it's non-conforming right now, so.
I think you're hearing that the corporate commercial operation of soccer on that field is not sitting well with us as residents, okay? If they're church affiliated, they have to do with, I don't know, church activities, then I'm hearing that's valid then. Does anybody know that that's a leach field back there? What I was told by, I believe, an elder of the church, if I remember correctly, and one of my neighbors, is that livestock pens were out there in that field back in the early part of the 1900s, and there's also a septic field that's a remnant over east on 55th Street where the house is. I don't know if the church owns that house anymore. And I proved this, okay? I've got it documented and I can submit that if you'll allow me to submit that.
It would have to be to
the attorney. My wife was going to read from a scripted letter, and she couldn't make it tonight. She's ill, and I have macular degeneration, and it would take quite a while if I could get through it, you know. But I'd like to ask if I could get it entered into the record. Is it?
Yep.
Form? Pardon me?
Yes, you can submit anything in writing, and it will be entered into the record, but due to length, it's not going to be read out loud.
Okay, thank you very much.
But it also, anything that's entered into the record will go to the village board, and they'll be able to consider it.
Great, thank you very much. What, on the leach field, septic field, should there be, we did a home edition in 2008. We had to have a crane come across the field. I asked one of the elders there, I don't remember who it was a newer one than the elder I spoke to 35 years earlier, to learn of the leach field when we moved in, okay? I wanted to go east-west along the fence line where our homes are, on the south side of 56th Street with that crane. And I was told, no, you're gonna go north-south. And that was the ultimatum I was given. I don't know if they didn't care, whoever told me this, or they thought I wasn't being truthful, but that exists there because the crane sunk and I paid $2,200 in a day and a half a time for the operators to get it out of there, okay? So is anybody who you're planning and zoning, are you aware that there's a leach field there too and a septic field that's never been removed? The trenches are still there underneath?
I'll try to answer that. I don't, the village doesn't necessarily have records of something like that, especially if it was a private sanitary thing. And the nature of this request to use the area as soccer fields didn't derive a request from the village to provide any kind of underground utilities or remnants of underground utilities. The only thing that staff did was we confirmed with our engineer that this was not a detention area for like stormwater, because the last thing we'd want is that it was designed to hold water during a storm and kids are playing in it. So that what we did confirm was it was not designed as a stormwater structure that is there serving a purpose for stormwater, but that's the extent of what we know.
Okay. Do you think you might want to look into that, or if soccer play is going to be happening at all in the future?
Normally, the village doesn't concern itself, this body is concerned with zoning and not with necessarily environmental remediation or requiring testing to be done. If there is new construction to be done in those fields, for example, something like that might come up.
Yeah, when the crane went down, you got the odor. Yeah.
Understand. You know, I think now you've put the church on notice that
I don't know
be
if they
a
knew it,
potential
yeah.
condition. But I don't think with anything more, this commission can
Okay.
make a recommendation based on a potential environmental situation. You could impose a condition, I guess, that testing be done to certify that it's safe, soil boring tests, but I know that we normally don't do that. That's up to the private property owner to determine if it's safe for their use. Any potential property within the village could have contamination, could have underground storage tanks, and this commission is in charge of being the police of that.
I think I take enough time. Thank you. Any questions for me, or?
No. Pastor, certainly, please.
I have no control whether this goes forward or not. But should it, I'd just like to say to our neighbors, and I know I've not met most of you, and we've been there 10 years, but I really have never heard any of the complaints. And I hear what you're saying, and I don't mean to throw the previous empire under the bus, but I am confident that in working with Evolution, that if there were ever any issues, you'll have my cell phone number. If this goes through, you will have my cell phone number. You can contact me, call me, text me anytime. And I'm confident that we can fix anything if there's an issue of trash, things like that. I've never heard of those things. So I just want you to know you'd have my word on that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address this issue?
I know you weren't able to address the question about how long the program would run. Do you have an idea? Are we looking at 2, 5, 10, 20 years?
So Empire's contract, I believe, was 3 years with the option of extending for 3 years. I think they were there for 6 years in total, from 2017 until just now. For us, our lease wouldn't be that long. It'd be shorter. We're maybe thinking 2 or 3 years. For us, what we would like long term is to secure one of the venues in Oakbrook. So there's 2 major soccer venues right there. One used to be the McDonald's Fields, and one is the Polo Fields by the golf course. So that's our long-term aim. So this for us is, we're a new club, we're starting, we want the kind of base for our next couple of seasons for our younger players, but we're actively looking for our long-term fixture.
Don't sit down. I have one question. So, did you ever coach for Empire?
No.
You never have. And have you ever coached on the church's lot in the past?
Yes.
And you blew a whistle a lot. I'm just saying, I don't know how many soccer coaches there are, but you do seem very familiar to me. Yeah, oh.
So Kieran's known me for a long time. I've never used a whistle to coach.
Well, I don't know, but someone on your team, when you were there, you look very familiar.
Okay, I was there.
Your voice is very familiar, noticeable, obviously, no problem. But I know that there's a lot of teams prior, that if you guarantee that no one practicing on that field is going to use a whistle.
For training Monday to Friday, no coaches will use a whistle.
Just the referees.
Just referees.
During the games.
During the games.
That are going to be held during my parties. Okay, that's all I got to say.
That's an easy provision to buy.
You'll have to give it to Doug, yeah.
All right, let's go to the commissioners. Commissioner Berry, would you like to start?
Yes. First of all, thank you for everyone for coming and voicing your concerns, and thank you guys for coming this evening. Joe, if the church wanted to host afternoon, Bible studies or have their own soccer intramural programs there or anything, they wouldn't be here tonight, right? That they could in theory do whatever they wanted on their private, within our codes and so forth as far as noise, but they could in theory have a church party on a Thursday night as long as they didn't go past the noise ordinance and so forth.
I believe because we consider them legal non-conforming, and we don't have a lot of records of all the activities that they've been doing over the years, that anything that a typical church could be doing within reason would be allowed. It's when it starts going outside of what a normal church would be doing, and I think that's where we set the threshold of, well, if this was, just church activities outside, whether it was soccer or something, it wouldn't rise to the expansion of use, which when you bring in the third party, that we said, well, no, that's clearly an expansion of use. So to answer your question, I believe that they can do a range of things that are within reason for a church congregation to do on the property.
And as long as it, again, was in, just like being a neighbor to you or whatever.
They'd still have to abide by noise ordinances and all the ordinances of the village.
It seems like in years past that when they would do the big sale for, I think the Appalachian area, I think they would come to us but I don't think that was really a variance. That was more for the sale, wasn't it, always?
Yeah, that was like a license through the business licensing permit process to have a special license to conduct what I think was under the guise of a garage sale or something like that, yard sale.
Mm-hmm. And then that stuff would be out there all weekend long and tarped and so forth. But in that third party, they didn't need a special use.
Correct. That was a one-time, weekend-long event that
even though
got.
they annually did
Yes.
it. Okay.
So if I can give you an example, so Veterans Park, our oldest park in town, for years didn't have a special use. And then it was about a year ago that they approached us and said, we wanted this multi-purpose building. And then we said, you know what? That's an expansion of use. Now let's secure the special use you always should have had. So think of the activities that occur at Veterans Park that have been occurring there for years and what we consider what would be reasonable for a park. There's been parades that are in there, there's been activities there, there's games that are there. It's basically, as long as it's operating within the range of what we expect, it doesn't necessarily rise to an expansion of use to bring them in to get that approved.
Well, and to the park situation, that's kind of how I feel on this one is if I moved next to a park, a church, a grocery store, something like that, I would kind of expect that there's going to be a certain amount of activity in that field. Could be almost any times, I guess. And it's almost surprising to me that they're here because I would think that they could have that soccer anytime they wanted on their own property. And again, if I was one of those residents around there, I guess if I lived next to a park, I grew up at 214 South Warwick, so I mean, we were very close to Veterans Park. You get used to a certain amount of those things. You expect those kinds of things. So I don't have an issue with it moving forward, but I do appreciate everyone's time. So, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Scales.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, everyone, for the presentation and everyone voicing their comments and concerns. I just have two quick questions for the petitioner, for the Evolution Club. Can you reiterate the ages of the players again, please?
So for Evolution East, we have 7 to 12. At that specific venue, it'll be mostly our 7 to 10-year-olds.
Okay. And where do most of the players come from?
Hinsdale, Clarendon Hills, Westmont. We do have a 2012 girls team, which is kind of pulled in players from a bit further afar. It's mostly local, so Westmont, Clarendon Hills.
So local
Hinsdale.
community kids. Okay, good. That's all I have. I'd be supportive of this as well. Thank you.
And Commissioner Lavoie.
Yes, in a review of this particular case, when I look at the property, a lot of the existing abutting residential properties, have a barrier fence. And then also to the east, the house to the east is a commercial use along 55th Street. And that lot is fairly deep. In fact, it runs, if you look at the cover page, you can see that the rear lot line is fairly deep. So when I look at that, and I too, like Commissioner Barry, compare this particular property as if you were living next to a park, that you're living next to a school, you're living next to another church, and there's these activities that go on. I live in Oakwood. I listen to football games every Friday night. In fact, I go over to the football game. So, it's things that the property surrounding you, they become part of the community. And I think that, from my own personal experience of living next to a property very similar to this, it's really not a detriment to my life, and I think it won't be here either. I do see this landscape buffer too that's worthy of consideration, because not only do we have a fence, but for a lion's share of the property, there's a tree line. And, I think that with the limited and retraction of the lighting requirement, I would be supportive of this petition.
Thank you. Commissioner Peterson.
I apologize for being late. I did not know, I live on the other side of the tracks, so I did not know they were these games were going on. When I first heard about this and, read all this, my biggest concern was the soccer balls going out on 55th Street. There's no fencing there. How often do those balls go flying out onto the street ever? During practice?
So our fields will be parallel to 55th. So the balls will normally be going level with them, if that makes sense. They won't be going onto the field. And then the nearest
that
field...
might help, but you can still have a straight kick. To your knowledge, have
Not when I was there. I've not been there for 8 years now. But if you look at I think there's a script of the map. So the nearest field to 55th is our 5 versus 5 field, which is for 2017 and 2016 birth year players. So these kids are 6 and 7, so they're far enough from the road where they can't kick a ball anywhere near that far.
Okay, that was my biggest concern, because that's a bad part of 55th Street, you know, with the hill and the gas station, and I was like, oh my God, I mean, I can't imagine driving down there and getting hit with a soccer ball. I can't, you know, not having fences there, that was my huge concern. It doesn't seem like it's anyone else's. And I have to admit, if I moved next to a church, I don't think I would have thought there would be that much soccer there. I mean, I don't really know any other churches in town. A lot of them don't have a lot of property, but I mean, if you move next to a park or a commercial building, I can understand the noise, but if you move next to a church, I would just assume it would be quiet all the time. And I guess, I don't know my question, this special use, if it's approved tonight, is it for, how does it go? 1 year, the 3 years, the 6 years, indefinitely?
It runs with the land, so it goes indefinitely unless the use is discontinued for a specified period of time, which I think is 12 months. And if it's discontinued for 12 months, then the special use as far as the outdoor activities terminate. But the main purpose of the special use is to approve this existing church.
Okay, so it's, okay, I'm kind of torn on this one, because I can see both sides. But again, like I say, I don't live in that area of town, so I'm not sure of the impact. I have actually never drove by there during soccer practice, so I have no idea what it, consists of. But okay, thank you.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yeah, thanks for everybody with their input and that, and the evolution has stated that about the whistles and that they're willing to take precautions so that they can have a space where they need, and are willing to talk to people and listen. And the pastor is giving out his phone for any problems. So the landowner is willing to work with the neighbors, and that's what I appreciated, that they are willing to go the extra mile on that. And so that's all I have. I don't have a problem with it. Thank you.
Commissioner Van Buren?
Yeah, the irony of this is, if it weren't for the lights, this would never come before this board, and this would have just gone on without our knowledge. My feeling is that while I hear the concerns of the neighbors, the fact that Pastor Glyman has not heard one complaint in this regard in 10 years, was the concern sufficient enough to warrant this kind of, for us to turn this down? And I don't think so. So I would be in favor of it.
Thank you. Well, I was quite concerned when I went through this packet and the request that the village had requested a photometric study, and which you were unable to provide. And so, well, I don't know how bright these lights are going to be. I don't know how loud these generators are going to be. How can I recommend approval? And so I was quite surprised when you stepped up and said that you're removing the lights as part of the request. And also, from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 8:30 at night, 4.5 hours, 5 days a week, 22 hours, much of that with these lights going would have a lot of impact, it would seem to me, more so than there's ever been in the past. I listened, and believe, your concern of the neighbors. You've given many very specific complaints, and Pastor Glyman, I think has expressed that he is very, very willing to work with you. I don't know if a buffer, a fence, a wall, something that would assist in this, where the noise coming to the neighbors would be a compromise. You might want to certainly meet with them. I'm in favor in sending this to the village board and letting them vote on it. So, staff, do you have any further comments?
I've got a comment. When it comes time to making this motion with, I assume you may want to consider conditions. One of the things that was discussed was how early games could start on weekends. I know there's Sunday services, but outside of that, do you want to say 10 o'clock a.m. or later, or do you have another proposal? I know they said they'd be flexible.
Well, that would be to exactly your point, John, and to clarify to the residents, I'm in favor of this with the provisions that are the concerns of the residents. And so I do think we should hash that out as far as the start time, and I think the one neighbor brought up a great point, that if the game's at 9, that means they're there at 8:30, 8:15, whatever. So we do have to factor that in a little bit, and so again, I'm in favor of it with the concerns of the residents, that we make sure.
So that would be Saturday mornings.
That's the only one. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. If the games start at 10, I guess we should say something along the lines of no soccer activity shall occur earlier than X time on weekends.
No official starts before, yeah, right, because kids are going to kids his parents can only drop him off at 8:30, he's going to have to get there, whatever the case is going to be, so the games, I think, is the part that, if we say 10 o'clock, I believe, on Saturdays, is that seem to be the...
Well, I don't know how we impose that kind of restriction, or how your schedule works with your...
They said they were flexible as far as scheduling the times of games. They could schedule away games if they needed to have a morning time, but if it was going to be a home game, it would be, for example, 10 o'clock a.m. or later.
Is that police then through code enforcement? Someone's going by there Saturday mornings to make sure they're not playing it?
It's basically incumbent on a resident, if they are starting earlier than 10, to call the village and complain, and then police can do a swing by and see if it's in fact, if there's a violation.
Okay.
So with that, I can read a list of proposed conditions, and you can adjust them or add to them as you feel are necessary, but I propose that someone makes the motion as written on the agenda, subject to the following special conditions for use of the outdoor recreational fields. One, the outdoor recreational field shall be used for soccer practice and games only, along with ancillary church activities. For the soccer use, no temporary or permanent lights shall be used. Soccer games shall only occur on weekends and shall start no earlier than 10 o'clock a.m. No soccer tournaments or special events shall occur on the property. No outside vendors shall operate from the property in conjunction with the soccer use. Player drop-off and pickup shall occur solely in the church parking lot, and no whistles shall be utilized during soccer practices.
John, with that whistles, should that be maybe worded like whistles, megaphones, amplified sound type?
Sure, we can amend that to say no whistles or other amplified sounds Oh, that's not it. Or amplified sounds shall be used during soccer
All of a sudden, it's
practices.
a megaphone that's, so.
I would move with those conditions.
Yeah, what happens if they would start breaking some of those conditions?
Can we have a second first, and then maybe we can have a discussion about it,
Okay.
just procedurally?
All right, Chair has a motion to approve from Commissioner Van Buren,
I'll second it. Lavoy.
second Lavoy. Now, discussion on that?
Yeah, what happens if they would start breaking some of these conditions? Does the village have any recourse?
It does, and that's a great question. And we've imposed conditions on other special uses and usually say words to the effect of, basically, the village has the right to revoke the special use approval after notice to the applicant and an opportunity to be heard at a village board meeting. Sometimes we put in language about if there's one violation, we're not going to immediately revoke it. There have to be, for example, 2 or more violations in a rolling 12-month period. So the first time would be, hey, there's a violation, here's your warning. If it happens again, we reserve the right to revoke the special use.
And can I confirm, so that's a confirmed violation versus a complaint?
Correct, yes.
Understood. Any other comments, commissioners? And roll call, please.
Commissioner Barry?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes?
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Lavoy?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Scales?
Yes.
And Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. So there you have it. The staff will inform you when you be going before the board. And to the neighbors, we thank you very much for your input. It was very helpful.
The village board date for this item will be the 27th of July.
Okay, and know that you are absolutely also welcome to attend and testify before the village board meeting on the 27th.
27th.
Of this month, July.
Keep an eye on the agenda on the website.
Next item, PZC 019-2023, a request by Amanda Simsky and Brandon Hall regarding the property at 240 South Washington Street in Westmont for the following. The zoning ordinance variance request to allow a 6-foot solid fence in a required side yard adjoining a street setback. Thank you.
I did.
Are you set, Jeff?
Thank you.
We're good? Okay. Ms. Simsky, Mr. Hall, good evening.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Simsky.
Brandon Hall.
Obviously live at 240 South Washington. This is our first home that we just purchased together in early May. We're getting married in December, and we're looking to establish roots here, grow a family. So the fence would provide us with a sense
Speak up a little bit.
sense of security and privacy within our new home that we're really excited to have.
So for this request, you'll see that the scope of the project is to construct a 6-foot fence on the side of our home. It'll add for cohesion for our home, and it'll allow for some privacy. We'll be able to use some outdoor space.
We have some latticing on the front of our home as well, so we thought this would be like a nice.
Let's say that again.
We have some lattice work on the front of our home, so we thought it would be a nice touch to add some cohesion.
Okay.
As you can see, here's our current property. With the north side of our yard, there is really no yard. It's about wide enough of maybe 4 feet. I mean, the dimensions are in there. But with the front yard, we've kind of found that is unusable as far as a fenced property. We didn't want to block the structure and the visibility of our front of the home. With the back, there's a tree where the driveway kind of daggers over. So the backyard is kind of limited in space to that very small corner that you can see there. So with that, you can see even that the builder of the home puts the side door, which kind of enacts as kind of the backyard of our property.
It's mostly asphalt in the back of the property.
So here you can see the proposed fencing. The blue would be the new fence that would be in opposition of the current zoning. The green would be already approved. You can see based off a later slide where we're taking the 10-foot diagonal to ensure visibility to the side yard and the alley. The 4 orange arrows indicate a door a gate, sorry, but we can keep going.
We'll also have landscaping along the exterior of the fence that will look nice in both the spring, summer, fall, winter. So there'll be greenery once the flowers die, and then there'll be florals once they bloom.
We'll just go through this quick. Here's kind of just very, very Microsoft.
Before and afters.
Before and after Microsoft Paint pictures of what we're kind of looking at. Here's another side picture of the property. As you can see, the way our property is landscaped, it slopes down when you get towards Washington Street. And then here's the back. This fence would go up to the alley and then be at that 45-degree, 10-foot angle. Our Photoshop skills are very limited. Here's the finding of facts. You know, as we kind of indicated before, our side yard is in fact kind of our usable space. The way our home is positioned, we're unable to use the back, and it would be a eyesore for the neighbors and ourselves if we put a fence in the front yard. And the proposed fence of what we're looking at is supposed to be aesthetically pleasing to the neighbors, ourselves, and match our home as well. Here is the last variance that was approved by the village in 2019. It's 102 South Lincoln. This is kind of where we drew our inspiration for the side angled fence, create the visibility.
The rear, yeah.
Yeah, there's no safety issues with that. And then we'll just bear through these pretty quick. Here's some other backyards, although not variances. They are what I would call backyards to others to show that it's not
Side yards adjoining a street with the.
exactly. So that we're just not trying to be outliers or bystep the laws. So basically, in conclusion, we're looking for a 6-foot fence, white, match our home. They have this side yard, nothing will block. There's clean visibility to the sidewalk, the alley, and it won't jeopardize the intent of the fencing code.
That's all we have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff.
So this property, 240 South Washington Street, it's located on the corner of West Des Moines Street and Washington Street, and then right down the street in the southern downtown portion of Westmont. The lot's about 9,000 square feet. The house was approved for permits and built in 2021. The properties consist of just a single-family detached residency with some of the lot coverage at its current maximum. So the petitioner is proposing, as they noted, a 6-foot fence and a side yard adjoining a street. One thing I wanted to note or correct was you noted, I believe it was the green portion on that one slide, if you want to pull it up really quick. Yeah, that one. That was a good one.
Sorry.
You're fine. So you guys were somewhat correct. Not the entirety of that green fence, that 6-foot fence being proposed there would be permitted under our code. It would just be that portion that's 15 feet away
Yeah.
from that
So there's no
property
return
line.
sides.
So it is that corner that's jutted out would also need a variance. So it's the entire side of it. The setbacks for that fence along Des Moines is at 0, but they're 1 foot away from the sidewalk. And then at the rear, they did have the jut out that was proposed by staff as the previous variance had a similar to prevent poor visibility coming out of the alleyway. So going into some of the bulk standards for fencing, we have 2 separate items that really are coincided with this request. So I'll just read it directly from the code. Solid fences that are located in the side yard adjoining a street are limited to a maximum height of 30 inches or 2.5 feet. Obviously, they're proposing 6 feet in this location, which requires a variance. The second portion of the code that comes up is that a 6-foot tall solid fence that is located behind the principal structure must be 15 feet from the side property line. That's where they thought that the portion could have been approved, but it's actually, that also needs the variance request because it's not 15 feet away from that property line in the rear. It complies with some of the most of the zoning bulk standards other than this variance request. They are offering to have landscaping along the portion for where they're not able to have the fence corner out. We would ask that the landscaping be under 24 inches, just so that visibility is still clear. And they are also proposing landscaping along the edge on Des Moines with, I believe, daylilies. Is that correct? And that concludes my staff report. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Okay, that landscaping is also on the west side, isn't it, in the rear?
On the
along the alley and then
correct on the west side.
Okay.
Can I ask, is there, because it's up to the property line, and so is there green space outside of the property line that's being landscaped?
Can you phrase that another way?
So you show the green line of the fence right at the rear property line, which is right up against the alley. So is there actually any space to plant anything if you're building the fence all the way up to the property line? Because sometimes there's green space outside of your property line, but before the gravel of the alley starts. So are you saying that there's still plantable area before the gravel of the alley starts?
Yes, there's permeable area in the rear there, and I don't know if we would go all the way up to the alley there. I think we'd probably leave a little space.
Thank you, staff. Sir, you are in the public and you are in the room. I bet you would like to address the board on this issue. No. Aha, okay. Well, you're certainly welcome. Seeing no one else from the public, let's go to commissioners. Commissioner Scales.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Congrats on the new home. Looks very nice. I'd be supportive of this. I have no issues. Thank you. Appreciate it. And good Microsoft skills, too.
Commissioner Lavoy.
Yeah, I too am supportive of the case. Similar to what we've approved before elsewhere, and I really don't have any issues with it. They've done a good job on the presentation, and it looks like a good solution. Obviously, the glaring thing to me is the staircase, but that has nothing to do with the application, so.
I think that's the shortest you've ever gone on any issue.
Could be, mark it down.
Mr. Peterson?
Did the builder build the house for you guys, or did you buy it after they built it?
We purchased the home after it was built. It sat on the market for a little over a year, I think.
Well, when you went to look at it, you obviously knew that you had no privacy and that there was bushes there. What was like your thought on what you were going to do with it? I mean,
we had been searching for a home for over a year, and obviously no place is perfect. So, we kind of compromised and settled like beautiful home. It is missing a fence is probably the biggest drawback of the home and part of the reason why perhaps it's set on the market for a bit. And we were kind of thinking maybe if the shrubbery would grow and survive, we could be okay with that. But the bushes continue to die along the edge there. There was a good chunk of them already replaced, and more of them are dying now.
and why am I thinking on corners where it used to be a 25-foot sight distance triangle?
I believe that, so in our code, I believe it's in, not the zoning code, but somewhere else in our code, there's a 55-foot vision corner triangle for commercial properties, and it's on the public right-of-ways. So it's on streets and not alleyways.
Oh, okay, alleys don't count as streets.
So just, if anyone doesn't know what a corner vision triangle are, I'll quickly explain it. So when you have two streets that meet, we draw an imaginary line that is basically from if you drew a point to where those two streets meet and you come back 55 feet in each direction, then we create a triangle. And so that's when if you've ever pulled up to an intersection and you try to look left and someone's bushes are there and you're like, I can't see around this. We have rules to say you can't put certain stuff in that visibility triangle. So we do have rules when a street meets a street. We don't have rules when an alley meets a street.
Okay.
We do have rules when a driveway meets a street, and that's a little 10-foot kind of chamfered corner. And so that's what we requested that the petitioner do at the alley. So the little green angled area is the chamfered corner that they did that meets the 10-foot requirement of a driveway. And I think the 10-foot is much different than the 55-foot because you're not talking about street speeds in traffic. You're talking about you're coming out of a very slow-moving, very narrow pathway into, first you're crossing over the sidewalk, number one, so you want to be able to see people that are coming on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And then you're not just zooming out into the street. So we treated it like a driveway.
Okay.
Because there were no rules. And the petitioner did honor our request because we thought it made it better. And if you've ever seen one block south of us here on Richmond and Lincoln, that was a variance that was approved on that one. And you'll notice that chamfered corner, we had them do the same thing so that when you're coming out of the corner, you can still see around the sidewalk and coming onto the street.
I wish more of them around town that are not like that were done like that originally, before there was a rule.
And that's the thing, there's no requirement, so.
Right, no, that's a much nicer way to have it with that angle.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas?
When I first read what you're asking for, I go, oh, here comes 10-foot fence, everybody wants a 10-foot fence, and we've dealt with this before, and especially off of alleys, and it's usually been the back portion, but when I was thinking in my head, 10 foot, 6 foot, 6 foot, on Washington, and here I'm thinking at the beginning of the property and the sidewalk, and I'm no. It saved you. As far as I was concerned, I was converted immediately because of all the reasons that we talked about, the alley and seeing around the corner and that. And I didn't have a problem with the other street going east and west, Des Moines. It was that front, and it looks perfect, and I'm supported 100%.
Thank you.
Commissioner Van Buren?
Yeah, this is one of the problems with a corner lot. You gotta get set back on two sides and shove your hole to the corner, the back of the lot. That plus this developer built on a huge house with that problem already before he started. So it does give you problems that, I guess that would warrant this, your approval. I would approve.
Commissioner Berry?
Thank you. I'm familiar with the home and kind of watched it get built and have watched you guys in there, and it's, you can tell by the way you keep it that you're only looking to improve it, and I'm in favor of it. The one question I do have is, I had heard that one of Steve's daughters was moving to town. Is that you? Are you part of that Shimsky family?
That's me.
And you
yes.
still had to come through and do all this?
I
No one could have
did.
just signed off and done
I was
this?
hoping my last
Okay,
name might save me somewhere, but it didn't.
Yeah, well, welcome, and we're sure glad to have you guys here, and I am in favor for it, so thank you.
Thank you. When I first saw this and went by, I thought, 6 feet, it's not 55th Street, but along Des Moines there would be awfully impactful, and the street is a few feet lower on top of it. But the sidewalk is the same level, so I understand. How high is the fence on the north side of the house, your neighbor's fence? Is that 6 feet?
I think it
Or
is
is it-
6 feet.
I think it's taller than
5
me, so I'd say it's even taller than
Really?
6 feet.
Okay. All right, my only other comment is that we have daylilies, and in the wintertime, there's nothing there, but,
I'm open to suggestions.
yeah, well, I'm not a landscaper, but, yeah.
We can confer with the landscaping.
The types of fir trees you have now would be too tall, and by the alley there, they would, so, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, we're in favor here. The chair would accept a motion to approve.
So move, Scales.
Second,
Motion to
Barry.
approve, Scales, and second, Barry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner,
Oh,
Can we have
discussion,
discussion?
please.
Yeah, in thinking about it even further, I'd like to maybe amend the motion to include staff's recommendation for the limitation of the plant material in the site triangle of less than 24 inches. And the reason I say that is because that triangle is really important, not from a traffic standpoint necessarily, but a pedestrian standpoint.
Yes,
So
the
if somebody's
sidewalk.
walking along the walk, and if there's a lot of plant material there, somebody could actually be walking on the sidewalk, and you have that conflict of potential hazard there. So I would suggest that we amend to include staff's requirement for the limitation of 24-foot high landscape material there.
24 inches.
24 inches, sorry.
So can we just include that as the vote goes forward, that it's amended as such?
If we're following Robert's rules, no, but the way we traditionally operate is yes.
Yes.
If, basically, who made the motion?
Oh, I made the first.
You made the motion, you made the second. If you agree with your motion and second to include that amendment, then we can just vote as amended.
I'm in agreement with it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm in agreement with it.
All right. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, Commissioner Lavoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Scales.
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
and Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. So there you have it,
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
certainly.
You'll
And
get
staff
an email
notif-
from me later about dates for the village board. I believe 27th as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good night.
Thank you.
Well, sir, what did you think? What did you think of the meeting tonight?
And I really see how you operate. That's why I think observe how this works so. Very good activity. I have some property in this town. If you want, I want to see how you.
Oh, excellent. We thank you for coming. Good night. Miscellaneous items, general update, the American Planning Association Planning Commissioner Training, well, the conference is in Naperville on the 11th to the 13th. I think the Plan Commissioner Training is usually on the last day. Would that be on the 13th?
So, Mr. Chair, I hound all of us every year. It's a wonderful opportunity that the AP puts on every year. And so not only are there 3 days worth of classes that usually we attend as staff, but usually there's one day that's dedicated to Plan Commissioner training. So I encourage everyone, if they're interested, they have not yet announced which day on, because the 11th through 13th is a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have a meeting on Wednesday.
Because it's usually on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, so, but it is very local. It's in Naperville.
Yeah.
The village can pay for that one day of training. If you've taken it before, I encourage you to take it again because it's a little bit different. You learn something every time. If you've been through it many times and you say, Joe, I looked at the schedule and there are like 4 classes that look great. I'd rather do 4 classes. Talk to us. We should have the funding to be able to pay for that. So once that schedule comes out, I'll have Jamie Hoffman email everyone so that you can see what the schedule is, and I encourage you all to attend if you want to.
Okay, yeah. Commissioner Scales and I went together last year, and I went with Greg 3 or 4 years. It's always been valuable, and I would encourage, especially Harold and Jill, to try to get to one of these.
And since staff's going, we could probably carpool if necessary, as long as we work with the rules. So.
Our next meeting will be a month from now, and the second Wednesday will be the 9th of August. And I think, Scott, you're going to be...
Yeah, I'll
running that
likely
meeting?
be the only staff here for that one.
Yes, I will not be in attendance for that one, so go easy on Scott.
Look out, Scott.
No way, yeah.
It looks like it's shaping up that we'll have, I think, 3 special uses?
Yeah, 2 currently, 1 maybe.
Yeah, so 2 or 3 cases on that. But I think we'd classify them as fairly simple special uses.
Is there anyone here who knows that they will not be in attendance next month?
If you plan on not being there, or if you run into traffic or something, email me or Jamie Hoffman, because Joe will not be looking at his
I'll be out of
emails.
the office, so typically you guys email me. I won't be here to know that you're saying you can't attend the meeting. So just make sure you get a hold of someone in the office, preferably Scott. And if you can't, you can always call the main line or email someone else in the
My
office.
number is on the website, one of the few.
Okay. Anything else anyone wants to bring up before we adjourn? Okay, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So move, Scales.
Second, Barry.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.